So, I think we also have to recognize that this experience is somewhat strange. It's certainly different from the times when I've had a chance to be together with other people. Then we meet in the breaks and chat, and then we come and we sit together and we can see each other directly in our embodied presence. And now we have images on the screen. So the manifest quality of the unique specificity of each person as they come into the world and show themselves is a little bit flattened. We become images. However, the question would be then, well, where do we meet? What are we meeting in? What is the basis of this? Each of us is sitting someplace in a room, looking at a screen. Where is the mind? We meet in the openness of the mind. If we go into thoughts and opinions and judgments and values, that creates a kind of barrier, because we then compare this with how it was if we met face to face and so on. But if we simply relax and open, we are here, this is arising, and then distance and space has no meaning, because we always meet in space. Space is the mother. Space is the, if you like, the shining face of emptiness. It's just open. And in that openness, each of us is here in our own particular way. We don't encounter that directly, but in as much as we don't fixate on the specificity of ourselves as the starting point, but we relax and open, then we are here together. So generally speaking, if we're doing meditation, particularly in a retreat, we cut a boundary. We say, I'm not going out, and I'm going to stay inside, and there are ritual ways of making this inside and outside are different. We cut off from the stimuli, the provocations of the many different events which can occur. That is to say, we're limiting the field of experience so that we can see more. Just as if you were in a research laboratory, there would be certain rules for maintaining the purity of the environment so that you didn't get contamination of what you're investigating. So that's what we do. So the first thing we want to do is to isolate the body. That is to say, to gather ourselves back through our senses into being present in our body, sitting comfortably, feeling the exact presence of the body, but keeping it in a posture which doesn't move too much. It's not looking around hungrily for new experiences, but it's just here. Because this just here-ness is a kind of basis for being able to see what moves. The mind moves and the mind never moves. This is the paradox that we live with. The mind itself as mirror never moves. The mind itself showing us experience is always moving. And these two things are inseparable. So we sit now in a calm way in our body. Everything around the body for our purposes, not as truth, but for our purposes as practice, we're not concerned with. Just this body. Keeping the body calm. Then we have our voice, the capacity for speech. We become silent. Silence means that the potential for seeking connectivity, which as we looked before the break, is usually mediated through our ego concerns, am I happy, sad, and so on. This vehicle of self-affirmation is dispensed with. We're just quiet, nothing to express. No need to relieve ourselves of any experience inside by talking about it. This means that the breath is allowed to flow freely in and out, without being given, excuse me, the additional vibration of speech. That's all that our speech is. We breathe in, we breathe out, and as the air is going through the voice box, it's given a particular quaver and it comes out as sound, which we then understand. It is air in vibration. So if we don't add that vibration, we have the simplicity of breath. So relaxing the diaphragm, breathing in. So very simply, we can do just now, breathe in for 4, hold for 2, and breathe out for a count of 4. Just in, hold, and release. In, hold, and release. And this 4-2-4 is quite easy to access and quite stabilizing. So let's do that for a little. Okay. So we're simply sitting, simply breathing, and then with the mind, we're simply open. So as we're sitting, many things arise, external noises, maybe some noise from the street, someone moving in the room, whatever is arising externally or internally, let it move. There is no need to interrupt the flow, to add something to it or subtract. So it's a bit like breathing without speaking. You're not adding any content. You're not doing any artificial breathing exercises once you get a calm, steady rhythm. Same with the mind, sitting relaxed and open. Many experiences arise. You don't need them. You don't need anything from them. There's nothing for you to do to them. You're simply present. Of course, we have a long habit of involvement, of adjusting, of prejudice, of selection. When you become aware that you're in that tendency, then just relax your attention back on the breath for a little, calm, simple, flowing, and then open to whatever is occurring with the same approach, calm, open, welcoming, not interfering. Okay, let's try this for a little. Okay. So when we are relaxed in that, we are simply an organism in a world of organisms. We don't need to add any special value. Of course, our ego self wants to establish value. And because of that, it becomes active in pursuit of things it likes and avoidance of things it doesn't like. And these two forces, they're like the in an exercise wheel going round and round and round. The mouse is running, but it's not getting anywhere. Similarly, in samsara, we are busy, 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 but nothing much is achieved because the past is always vanishing. So it may be helpful to look a little bit now at the nature of ignorance and how we come to be in this situation. As many of you know, the teachings are organized in terms of the view, the meditation, the activity, and the result. And the view comes first. It's not a philosophy, it's not theory. it's a way of organizing our attention so that something is revealed. So, for example, if you are out walking in the countryside, if you're standing up as you walk, you see things in a particular way. But if you lie down on the grass and you look very closely at what's coming out of the earth, you get a completely different world revealed to you. That world was always there, but it's a bit hidden when you're standing up and looking down on the grass. So the view is always linked with the revelation, and the way we view reveals the world in particular forms. So I'm going to describe this from the point of view of the Dzogchen and the higher Tantra of Anu Yoga. And this is linked with this three aspects of the ground, the path, and the result. The ground is the basis, the source of everything. Where does everything come from? From this source. So if we see the source, then we have clarity. If we don't see the source, we don't have clarity. The path is to see the source, and the result is that you never stray from the source. So you abide or you rest in the intrinsic integrity of the ground and its manifestation of stillness and movement. So the ground, which is the basis of everything, is uncompounded. It's not a thing. Everything we know about is compounded. Houses, motor cars, bodies, cakes, everything is brought about by bringing different ingredients, different components, putting them in patterns, processing them, and then you have your product. They are products of particular patterns of engagement. The rocks, the mountains, they have a similar thing. We have all our human sciences, geology, oceanography, and so on, revealing more and more information about cause and effect and the mutual influencing of factors. But the source, the ground, is free of all of that. It is untouched by anything. It's not a creation. It is just there. This is its second quality of Rangjung, or self-existing, self-arising, or in ordinary language, it's just there. It just is. It's not produced by anyone. It's not made by any god. It didn't have a beginning. It is infinite. No limit in the past, no limit in the future. Everything is within it. And that infinity is its vastness. It has both depth and expansion. Whichever direction you go in, this is the ground. So the ground is not in a place. It's not like the earth that we walk on, which is there, and then you dig a foundation and you build a house on top of it, where the house, as you build it up story by story, is getting further away from its source. This source, because it doesn't have location and it doesn't have duration, it's not graspable by any of our concepts. It's not a thing in relation to other things. It's just open. It's just open. It's a vast openness which is not dead, but has potential. And with this quality, it's inexpressible. It's not like anything else. Everything we know, whether it's milk, we know comes from the cow eats the grass, and so on and so forth. We know cheese comes from the milk made by the specialists in making cheese. You get different cheeses in different places. You get sheep cheese, goat cheese, cow cheese. There are so many incredible compounds and elaborated commodities of our modern capitalist economy, which have been generated. And they have names, they have qualities, they usually have a market value and a price, a wholesale price, a retail price, and so on. But the ground is not like that. It's not included in any of the ways in which we would express things. It's beyond concept, beyond language, and yet it's the basis of our existence. And fifth general quality is that it cannot be placed inside the formations of samsara or nirvana. It's neither limited nor free. It just is. This ground has these two possibilities. One is that there is awareness of it. Secondly, that there is not awareness of it. If there is awareness of it, then it's like the mirror. The mirror is aware, and the mirror is open and undefended, and arising as the potential of the ground, there comes many different formations which are revealed in the mirror as reflections. So this is how we experience the potential of the ground as these transient movements arising as the quality of our experience. And the wider our view, the more variety of experiences arise. So if you have a kind of ordinary job, I don't know, a school teacher or a bus driver, you have your body and you're concerned with ordinary things. But say, for example, you worked in a hospital laboratory. You spent some of the time you're looking at blood samples. Some of the time you're looking at bits of organs from biopsies. Some of the time you're looking at examples of feces, of the shit that somebody's taken from their body. Normally you don't want to look in someone's shit at all. You might look at your own, but you don't really want to look at someone else's shit. But in the laboratory, that's what they look at. So in our world, the visions that we see of what's important and unimportant are very relative, depending on our social role, our professional trainings, our age, capacities, and so on. That is to say, this world is like an unbelievably complicated sculpture, and each of us has access only to some little area of it. And we take that to be, the whole of it. This is my life. This is what I get. Tibetans call this your cha, your slice, your share. So we each get our particular vision, and we think this is the whole. This is the outer formation, but the ground itself is not like that. It's not limited by the quality of the perceiver. Awareness is not a perceiver. It's not someone looking at something. There is no someone in awareness. When you're peaceful and calm, you're just aware. You might be aware of a memory, and that memory has got a little kind of friendly vibration. You think, oh yeah, I was on holiday there. That was lovely. We had paella, whatever. So there's a familiarity in the memory. And in that moment, the openness of awareness becomes fixated potentially into that. So we have these two possibilities: stay open with relaxed awareness, or get pulled into identification with the image. So with the open ground, which has no agenda, is neutral. It's not like some visions in a theistic system where there is a God and people want to believe that God is good. The ground is equal, indifferent, doesn't care. It's just showing this. If you don't see it, see that it is open and ungraspable, grasping arises. if you ignore the openness, as the openness displays a ceaseless flow of images, smell, sense, whatever is arising according to your particular formation, you take that as real, as something graspable. So this is the beginning of samsara. There is a something, object side, and a someone, subject side. Something is happening to me, for me, maybe as me. Subject and object arise when awareness is not aware of the ground. When you have unawareness of the ground, the object side shows itself. The object side is how the ground appears in its showing of its potential, and the subject side is how awareness is when we're not aware that we're aware. That is to say, the content of experience, like corks floating on the ever-moving waves of the ocean, are bobbing and different patterns are arising, but the depth of the ocean is hidden. Without the depth of the ocean, you wouldn't have the waves. So this is not theory. We can experience this for ourselves, that when we sit and relax and we're not doing anything, experiences come and go. They're self-arising and self-liberating. Self-liberation is a big focus in Dzogchen, because when you really sit with whatever is arising for you, happy or sad, you see that it goes. The content of the mind is movement. You cannot own it. You cannot seal it. You cannot grab it. You cannot hold on to it. It's here and then it's vanishing. Always vanishing. So when we really see this, what is this grasper? What are you trying to get? It's like trying to catch the wind. What you catch is your concept of the object. The object is always dissolving. The concept about the object is always dissolving. But if you keep running it round and round and round, it is as if there is a subject and a stable object. So you need to observe this for yourself. So ignorance is simply the absence of the experience, the subtle experience that allows the first flavor of awareness. At the moment, we're a bit foggy. We're so used to conceptualizing everything, to looking through the lens of concept. As we do that less, we start to have an experience. It's not awareness itself, but it's close to it. We have the sense of being open. There's still a self-referential sense, oh, I am the one who is opening. But still, there is more movement. And as we stay with that, we see both the dissolving of the object and the dissolving of the subject. But who am I? Just this inexpressible openness, presence, radiant, shining, peaceful, contented, naked. It's not covered by anything. It's always fresh, just here. And then you find yourself wrapped again in immersion. You've gone into the arising. And the more there is a focus on the object, not only does the object take on a density and an impact, but the subject arises as well. This is the co-emergence of the subject and the object. So in some systems of meditation, we try to limit the arising of the object so that there's nothing for the subject to do and it thins out. In Dzogchen, we tend to focus on the subject and not feed it so that it doesn't get hungry for the object. The subject is hungry because it's alienated from its own ground. If we are in touch with the ground, with the source, everything's there. Everything is arising. Everything is available. Everything can be engaged with as required. But when we are cut off, when we think, well, I'm just me, I've got to take care of my life, I've got to do all of these things. When you're stuck in that situation, there's a lot of work to be done. And there's always a need to be busy. And that busyness itself generates the screen by which you cannot see who you are and how you are. And this is tragic. No one is suffering. The one who suffers and who is hungry and sometimes happy and fulfilled, the sentient being, is the expression of the mind. It's a display of the mind which is blind to the mind itself. So it's like a traditional example is that we're like the farmer who goes out on the hill looking for his cow when the cow is safe in the byre in the cow house next to the farm. We don't look in the right place. We imagine that there is enlightenment over the hill in the next valley. And in order to get there, we have to go on a journey and we have to do so many things. And that we look at ourselves and we think, I'm not ready. I'm this kind of a person and I make so many mistakes and I've got unhappy social life and so on. That is to say, I fixate on this image of myself, which has arisen due to causes and conditions. And on the basis of that, I imagine Buddhahood is very far away. So if you start in the concept, truly the journey is far. But the concept is in your mind. The concept comes from your mind. It has no other source. The ground is the source. No, there's no two factories. There's only one factory. There's only one production point. This is the empty, open arena, the Dharma Dhatu, the space within which all dharmas, all phenomena, whether subject or object, are arising together. So the practice is always to relax out of fixation on identification with the transient content of the mind. So we can do this a little just now. You sit in a comfortable position. Usually we do this with the eyes open, resting in the space in front. If that's not easy, you can simply look down the line of your nose, but don't focus in on a point as you might do in a calming practice. This is a practice of openness, so you're just settled. And then allow yourself to be present with whatever arises. And the key thing is, we're not starting with the sense of I, James, am in my body doing meditation. If we do that, we've already changed the thing. If you were going to cook a meal, maybe some vegetable stir fry, and the first thing you did was you chopped up 10 hot chilies and put them in the pan, you've directed what kind of dish this is going to be, because it's going to be hot. So if you start from I am meditating, you have already set up a frame of reference. We don't want to do that. Sit and experience. Don't assume this is my body. I live in this body. My mind is my brain. All these various things that we may have heard. There you're starting with beliefs and assumptions and concepts. Here we start simply relax. Oh, then experience arises. Various kinds of experience. They arise and pass, arise and pass. Some of these experiences we might call body experience, or experience showing as body, experience showing as a motor car passing on the street outside, experience showing as children playing in another room, whatever's in your life situation. All kinds of things are arising. Let the arisings come and go, come and go. And whenever you find yourself fixating on a point of reference, which could be a sensation in the body, it could be some kind of pain, some feeling in your mouth, the mind can lock onto anything. We are used to believing that illusions are real. So it's exactly like that in the meditation. Our tendency, our habit to hold on to something and say, this is me, this is the proof that's me, I experience it, must be true. Don't try and change that in any way. Just sit. It's gone. This great understanding, this profound insight has vanished. Now it's just something else, something else, something else. Without beginning, without end, unborn and unceasing. So whenever you come to a conclusion and you seem to have definite knowledge and you seem to have something that you can build up, a picture, don't criticize it. Don't step back and judge it. Don't observe it. Just be with it. This is here. Now it feels like me. And it's gone. So it's very subtle. It's not rough. It's not crude. We're not managing our existence. We're not making ourselves. We're just trying to sit quietly and see what's going on. If you imagine that you're a child, small child, maybe you're 6, and you wake up in the night and you hear the big people talking. So you go down the stairs or you go out of your room and you listen outside the door. Oh, big people are talking, but you don't want them to see you. So you sit on the carpet and you listen. Oh, like that. It's not your world, nothing to do with you. If you make a noise, your mom will come out and send you to bed or maybe take you in the room. Oh, you're there, close, but not involved, neither merging in nor stepping back. Okay, so we do this for a while. And if you find yourself getting lost, you can just relax in the out-breath. And here you are. And the flow of experience goes on. Okay. So sitting in this way can often seem a little bit strange because it's not our usual way of proceeding. The key thing, though, is not to see the movement as the enemy. It's not that the movement is stealing your peace or your stillness or your settledness. The movement is inseparable from the stillness. The movement doesn't destroy the stillness. It's the movement is the showing of the stillness or the breath of the stillness, as if your mind was like the sky and a little soft spring wind was blowing through it. And as the wind blows, it moves the grass and it stirs the blossom in the trees. So we're not trying to stop the movement of the mind. There are many kinds of meditation which attempt to do this. But since the very nature of the mind is movement and stillness, you would then be entering a prejudice of stillness is good and movement is bad. The problem is not either stillness or movement, it's the uncoupling of stillness and movement. The ego is the state of isolation from its own ground. The ego is our alienation from the ground of our own being, the pretense at autonomy and separation. So when the mind is moving and there are thoughts and feelings, however they are the movement of the mind. When you fall into your conceptual interpretation of the meaning or the value of what's arising in your mind, and you start to attribute value, you say, this is good, this is bad, I like, I don't like, then all you've got is movement. Because you've got your egoic movement and the movement of the arising of the field of experience. Very difficult to settle into stillness with that. So we want to always follow the middle way without bias to one side or the other. We're just sitting, experience is arising, movement, whatever we call it, something is happening, and then it vanishes. Where is this happening? Here. How do I know it's here? Because I am here. What am I here as? Open awareness. As soon as I'm here as James, I become a participant in the movement. So in Dzogchen, we have these three aspects which are inseparable and yet different. We have what's called ngowo, or the essence of ourselves, who we are, which is emptiness. It's the ungraspability of the truth of the basis of our mind. It's not really different from the ground or the source. This empty essence shows itself as qualities, and these qualities arise as the whole field of experience. Everything outer, everything inner, and it comes all at once. And then inside this, we have the specific movement of what we take to be ourselves. We are a movement of the field in the field. Just as if you went out, if you were able to go out in the country and you see a field where there are the spring wild flowers growing and the breeze moves across the field, you see some of the flowers are catching the breeze and they start to vibrate. So this is our individual participation. We are flowers in the field, and the field is inseparable from the ground. We don't come out of the field. This is where you can directly taste the true meaning of what is called ignorance in Buddhism. That we are ignoring the fact that we are enworlded. We were born out of our mother's body, and our mother was, when we were born, probably lying in a bed, and the bed was in a room, and the room was in a house or a hospital. And there was, like Russian dolls, there was niche after niche after niche. And so as your body came out of your mother's body and the umbilical cord is cut, it is as if you become separated. But you're immediately connected with breathing, because if you don't breathe, you die. So instead of getting your nutrition through the umbilical cord as you float in the amniotic fluid, which is a state of communication or dialogue or connectivity, in coming out of your mother's body, you are now in communication with the world. And you get placed on your mother's belly, which helps the placenta to come out. And gradually you move and you start to suck some milk from her nipples. And you're breathing in and out. And there you are. This is your participation in the field. Parents give you a name, people talk of you as someone separate, maybe photographs are taken and sent to relatives. This little girl has been born, she is called this, she is so much like her grandmother. When we start to tell these stories, we are extracting the baby from the world, because the baby is there with mum. The baby's not going to survive well if mum gets sick and dies. The baby has to be somewhere. Even if there's a problem at birth, the baby's in an incubator. We are always somewhere, and this is not an accident. We are somewhere because we are part of the field of disclosure. We are interdependent. We are not independent, nor are we passively dependent, but it's always a dialogue. It is movement, it is pulsation. Subject and object arise together. The flowers arise from the field arises from the ground. So while we're sitting in the practice, we're not concerned with our manifestation into the world. We're concerned with the field of what is arising and keeping that field non-dual with or inseparable from the open ground. So when experiences arise, we don't interfere, we let them arise and pass. If you grasp at the experience, if you name it and call it something and try to make use of it, you're separating it out. If you have some flowers growing in your garden and you pull them out to put them in a vase, you're killing them in order to get their beauty. Now the flowers are in the vase and they're so nice for 1 or 2 days and then it's gone. If you'd left them growing in the garden, you probably would have had them longer. So this is the same thing, that when you grasp at something because you think it's important, you kill it. You kill it because the root of whatever is arising is in the Dharma Dhatu. It's in the infinite spaciousness of the ground of all the Buddhas. The Buddha is the presence of the ground. The Buddha is this radiant, smiling presence, and the quality of the Buddha emerges from the ground. It's not some private property that a Buddha has. Everyone has Buddha nature, which is to say their inseparability from the ground. So in the meditation, our main instruction is always, don't push things away as if there was something wrong with them. Don't hang on to momentary experience as if it was especially precious or important, because both of these interpretations are the movement of your own mind. These are your conceptual constructions allocating value and significance to transient arisings. For our purposes, what we want to see is the inseparability of the emergent experience and its ground, that this is the unfolding of emptiness. Just as if you went to the sea, you would see waves moving on the ocean. The waves look different from the ocean. They are formations of water into particular shapes, but they are simply water. The fact that the ocean shows a wave doesn't mean that the wave is other than the ocean. But in all our languages, we have vocabularies for waves. There are, in English we say, there's white horses, there's white that rides along the top of some of the waves, and we have spume, this little droplets of water that come shooting off, especially if there's a wind. So we have ways of thinking about the wave as a wave. And when we apprehend a wave in that way, it is as if we have found something separate from the ocean. But that separation is created by our thinking. In the same way, if you look at a cloud in the sky, the cloud is in the sky. But we can say, oh, that cloud is very white, or that looks like a rain cloud, and we take it as something pulled out of the sky. Or we look at a reflection in a mirror and we say, oh, how beautiful. Reflection is the shining manifestation of the potential of the empty mirror. That's what it is. If there was no brilliant, shining display quality in the mirror, there wouldn't be a mirror. You look at the wall doesn't show you your face. It doesn't show you anything shiny. It just shows itself, because the wall is full of wall. But the mirror is empty. And because the mirror is empty, it can show all these diverse reflections. And they are the showing of the emptiness of the mirror. So the wave, the cloud, the reflection, these are all traditional examples, so that to help us to see that when we're sitting and experience is arising, just leave it. Don't do anything with it. Don't cook it. Don't add spices. Don't chop it up. Don't do anything at all. Leave it raw, naked, as it is. And the more we do this, we are using less and less effort. And so the mind becomes relaxed. This is called resting in the original situation. This is how the mind is, just at rest. When the mind is at rest, movement is flowing through it all the time. This movement is a potential, so that when we get up from the meditation and we go into interactions with the environment, with other people, one of the forms of the energy of the ground manifests as myself. Here I am, talking, walking, making a cup of tea, whatever I'm doing. Where am I doing it? Within the field of experience. So I'd say I decide I'll make a sandwich for lunch. I have bread, I cut up the bread, I get out some cheese or whatever, and I put it with the bread. Now I have a sandwich. The sandwich is the mind. There's the quality of the cheese. Maybe it's a crumbly cheese, maybe it's a smooth cheese, the quality of the bread. This is display, this is experience, this is your mind. If you think of it, oh, this is very good bread, oh, this is terrible bread, I'm not going to buy it again. This is your mind. You're giving a commentary. If you just stay with what is there, as you cut into the bread, you find no resistance or strong resistance, depending on the ingredients of the bread. Stay with the phenomena. Stay close to how life is emerging, and relax your relentless need to make a commentary, to interpret, to give your opinion about everything. Oh, now you become more full of the world. Now you feel part of the world. Because as long as you're giving your commentary, you're separated from the world and you're as if you're in charge of the world, and it's a big burden. It's a big burden to have to work it out and decide what's right. But the paradox is, the less interpretation you do, the brighter your mind will be. Clarity, as described in Dzogchen, is non-conceptual clarity. This is not something we learn at school. Our education is entirely about conceptual development, conceptual elaboration. But if you just stay with the practice and just relax, whatever you do, we're going to have a break now for lunch for an hour. Whatever activity you're doing, stay, relax in the out-breath and feel your body moving in the environment. That how your body moves and how the environment is like a joint movement. You're co-emergent with the environment. Because if you walk and turn your head, a different aspect of the room is revealed to you. So the potential of the room and the angle of your head arise together. And then you bend down to tie your shoelaces, and a whole other vista is appearing. If you conceptualize it, oh, these are my shoes, then you step out of time. There's past, present, and future. I bought these shoes 2 years ago, blah, 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 blah. Big story. But if you're just bending and you're tying the shoelace and you feel your wrist moving as you tie the knot, you're present in the moment with the emergence of this unique situation. So this is the practice that we do after our meditation. Well, now we have a break. It seems very odd to say goodbye when I haven't really met you, but that's our situation at the moment. And so we meet together again in in a short 1 hour period. I wish you a good lunch, and then we'll continue with more practice and Dzogchen. Bye for now.